The storm didn't bother me at first. What bothered me was the screaming, the way it ripped through the frozen night, even though nobody else was supposed to be out there. I remember stopping dead on the wooden porch of the cabin, my hand still on the doorknob, breath snagging in my throat as the scream echoed across the lake. It wasn't an animal, it wasn't the wind. It sounded like a child, but distorted, stretched, sharpened, like someone's fear had been carved into sound. That was the moment I should have turned back inside. That was the moment I should have locked the door, thrown every log in the fireplace, and listened to the storm chew at the walls. Instead, I stepped out into the snow. The cabin sat on the very edge of Winter Hollow, 25 miles from the nearest town, which barely even counted as a town anymore. Half the buildings were abandoned. The other half looked like they wanted to be. When I first rented the place online, the loneliness seemed charming. Disconnect from everything, the listing had said. No noise but the wind. The owner, a hunched old man named Harrow, handed me the keys with fingers stiffened from frostbite. He had the look of someone carved out of the mountain, skin like bark, a stare that didn't quite blink. If the snow starts howling, he told me, sliding the keys into my palm, stay inside, don't investigate, don't call out, don't look. He said it with a seriousness that almost made me laugh. Almost. But when he didn't smile back, I felt a pinprick of unease. On my second night, the storm rolled in without warning. I'd been reading by the fire when the wind hit the cabin like a fist, rattling the window panes in their frames. Snow whirled past the glass so violently it looked like a blizzard of needles. The temperature dropped so fast, the walls seemed to groan. I tossed more wood on the fire. Flames crackled, spitting sparks. Then the wind changed. It didn't just howl, it spoke, low, drawn out, a voice hidden in the storm. I froze, listening. The next gust sounded almost like, "Help." I shook my head. Storms could make you hear things. Snow played tricks on the ears. But then, the scream, sharp, human, right outside. I shoved on my coat and grabbed my flashlight before fear could talk me out of it. The moment I opened the door, cold slammed into me so hard my eyes watered. The world outside was a blinding sheet of white. Snow whipped across the lake, twisting into unnatural shapes that almost looked like figures rushing past me. The scream came again, slightly left of the lake, near the tree line. I trudged forward, boots crunching into ice, each breath stabbing my lungs. The storm swallowed sound so quickly that even my footsteps felt muffled. Halfway across the lake, my flashlight caught something. Footprints, bare footprints, small like a child's. The snow around them was disturbed fresh, as if made only moments before, yet the storm should have erased them instantly. My heart hammered. "Hello?" I called out, voice shaking. "Is someone out there?" The wind swallowed the words. The footprints led onward across the lake, then veered toward the woods. Dark pines hunched together like they were conspiring. The forest looked wrong in the storm. Too still, too quiet. The wind howled over the lake but seemed to die completely the moment it touched the tree line. As soon as I stepped beneath the branches, my ears popped. Silence. Thick, absolute. No wind, no storm, no sound except the crunch of my boots. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. That was when I saw the scarf. A child's scarf, bright red and frozen stiff, tied perfectly in a high knot on a branch at least 9 feet up. I stared at it. It didn't make sense. No child could reach that height. And below it, the footprints ended. In their place were larger prints, adult-sized, but wrong. The steps were long, uneven, and dragged, like someone taller than me was pulled backward while fighting for their life. Deep gouges in the snow from their heels, fingertip marks in the ice. Something terrible had happened here. I leaned closer, and a whisper slithered across my ear. "Don't look." I spun around so fast I slipped. My flashlight beam jittered between the trees. Nothing. No one. Breathing heavily, I tried to convince myself it was the wind. Then the whisper came again. "Go back inside." This time it sounded like it came from everywhere. From the trees, from the snow itself, from inside my skull. I backed away, stumbling. A branch snapped deeper in the woods. A long, dragging sound followed. I forced myself to step forward, pushing through the branches into a small clearing. And in the center, something stood there. At first, I thought it was a dead tree, so pale and thin it almost blended with the snow. But then it moved, flexing joints that didn't look like bones, limbs too long, bending in slow, jerking motions. The creature's skin looked stretched, almost translucent. Frost clung to its body like armor, its head tilted at an impossible angle as glowing black pits where eyes should have been stared through me, not at me, through me. Then I saw the shapes behind it, bodies, maybe a dozen, half buried in the snow, some frozen mid-scream, faces twisted, reaching upward. A child's hand stuck out of the ice like a broken branch. I staggered back, bile rising in my throat. The creature didn't chase. It drifted a few inches forward, not walking, gliding across the snow without disturbing it. A cold so deep it felt alive rippled outward from it, frost crackling across nearby trees. Its voice seeped into my head, soft and sharp at the same time. "Warmth. Stay." I bolted. Branches lashed my face as I plunged back through the woods, running blindly until the snow hit me again in a roaring wave of wind. Behind me, I heard cracking ice and a faint, unnatural glide. The creature was following, slowly, relentlessly. When the cabin came into view, its windows flickering warmly through the storm, I nearly sobbed in relief. I threw myself at the door, stumbled inside, and slammed it shut. The moment the heat from the fire touched my skin, the whisper slid through the walls. "Don't let it see the heat." Then something hit the window. A single long, frost-covered hand pressed against the glass. The pane froze instantly, cracking in fractal patterns. The creature leaned close, hollow eyes scanning the warmth inside, its skin spasming as if burning from the mere proximity to heat. It scraped at the window, slow, deliberate, but it could not cross, not while the fire burned. I backed away slowly, clutching the fireplace poker, breath trembling as frost crawled down the glass. Eventually, the scraping stopped. The hand withdrew. Hours later, long after the storm quieted, I still hadn't moved from the fire. When light finally filtered through the frozen window, I dared to peek outside. Nothing. No prints. No sign of the creature. Just the quiet after a long, violent storm. I packed my things, ready to leave forever. But when I opened the door, Harrow, the old cabin owner, was waiting just outside. He didn't knock. He didn't speak at first. He just stared at me with a look of exhausted relief. "You saw it," he said softly. Not a question. I swallowed. "What is that thing?" He glanced toward the trees. "It has no name," he murmured. "Some call it the Hollow Winter. Some say it's the first cold that ever touched this land. Some say it's the last breath of those who froze before towns ever existed here." He stepped inside, warming his hands by the fire. "It wakes when the snow screams," he continued. "The cold takes the lost ones first. Then it wears their voices like clothing. It's not alive. It's hunger wearing a shape." I shuddered. "Those footprints," I whispered. "The child." "Not a child anymore," Harrow interrupted gently. "The storm copies the last cry of whatever it takes. That's how it lures more." He stared at me for a long moment. You're lucky you heard the whisper, I blinked. The whisper? He nodded. I heard it once too, 40 years ago, before the frost took these fingers. He held up his damaged hand. Some say the forest tries to protect anyone it thinks can escape. It's the only reason you're alive. I didn't know what to say. Harrow walked to the door and opened it slightly, looking out over the snow. Leave today, he said quietly, before sunset, before the storm remembers you. I didn't argue. I left Winter Hollow that morning, driving until the mountain vanished behind me. Every mile felt like shedding a layer of ice from my bones. But here's the thing. I never forgot that whisper, and I never forgot the scream. Now, years later, living far from any snow, I still hear it sometimes,